Okay. In the last session, we have seen how to create the implementation user, and we assign the roles called as application implementation consultant and IT security manager. Because of application implementation consultant role, the user can have access to FSM that also be verified. And because of IT security manager, the user can access to security control that also be checked. And as a part of FSM, function setup manager is all product families we call as offering and different applications we call as options. In the very fresh instance, as a part of implementation, you may get access to instance with a user called as FA admin, or you may get different user. Whatever the user access you get, with that we have to create our own user. How to create our own user we discussed. After that, we have to enable offerings and options. What are the offerings and options we are going to implement for the client? This is all we have to enable. After that, we have to create implementation project. As a part of implementation project creation, we have to select offerings and options into project. So that system will create the task list. Task list is nothing but list of setups what we have to perform to implement any offering or option. So these are the points we discussed. Now we'll see how to enable offerings and options in any instance. We'll see. So if you want to enable offerings and options, click on username. Click on username. In this panel, you can see setup and maintenance. Click on the setup and maintenance task. And here you can find actions. You can find actions. Click on actions drop down. You could see one of the action called as go to offerings. Select go to offerings. So here you can see what are the offerings are available within this instance. Okay, what are the different offerings are available, you can see. So when you talk about financials, here is a financials offering. Select financials offering, you can just select it. When you select financials offering, here you can see the description of the financial offering. So what this financial offering contains, that you can see. Within this financial offering, it includes assets. Assets means fixed assets application, and ledgers. Ledgers means general ledger application, and cash cycle means cash management application. Somebody posted, I am unable to view the Oracle Fusion screen. You can disconnect and connect again, please. Okay, please disconnect and connect again.
I think, are you sharing something on your screen? Because what I can see is only the good morning. The session will start in 2 minutes.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I think your screen shared is something else, and what you're working on is something else. Maybe.
I think,
No, we can see the screen.
No, we can see the screen. Yeah.
We can view.
I think in your case it not refreshed. Yeah. Disconnect and again connect by clicking on the same link, please.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, please. Okay. So when you select financials offering, okay, you can just click on this financial offering. You can click on that icon. And what we have within this financials offering, you can see here. Okay, what we have as a part of financials offering. So it includes assets. Assets means fixed assets application. Ledgers means it refers to general ledger application. And cash cycle, nothing but cash management application. Invoices and payments means payables application. Account receivables, directly they given the name as accounts receivable. And collections is the separate applications. And subledger accounting is not an application, is a concept. And tax configuration is a separate application. And the expense also would be part of this financials only, but you have to get the separate subscription. Okay, for Fusion Expense, you have to get the separate subscription. That's the reason they are not including within this financials offering, but it is a part of financials. So this is how you can see what we have as a part of financials. Along with that, you can see this financials offering is enabled or not in this instance. You can see status is enabled. So this instance we are using for training purpose. That is the reason these financials are enabled. If it is a fresh instance, here you can see the status as a not enabled. When you see not enabled, you have to go to opt-in features tab. Just click on opt-in features. From where we can enable the offerings and options, we can see that. Now we selected a financials offering. That means if financial offering is not enabled in this instance, you can enable by clicking on this opt-in features. Okay, now we are able to see enabled. That means inside you can see as enabled everything. You see here financials enabled. When you enable financials, automatically you will get general ledger application. Without general ledger, there is no meaning. If you talk about financials, without general ledger, no financials. General ledger application is a base. And supplier invoice processing is payables application. That is also enabled in this instance. And within the supplier invoice processing means payables only, we have all these. Suppliers, payables, payments. Here payables means invoice process, payments means payment process. Cash management and banking means cash management application. If you enable supplier invoice processing means payables. If you enable it, you will get cash management automatically. In the payables, if you want to make the payment, bank accounts are required. For that purpose, if you enable option called as payables is nothing but supplier invoice processing. That's how they are giving the name here as a part of offerings and options. So you will get cash management also. And if you are going to implement Fusion Expense application, you have to enable. If you are implementing fixed assets, you have to enable. And if you are going to implement receivables application, customer invoice processing means receivables. If you are going to implement receivables application for your client, you have to enable it. You can scroll a little down. Okay. So if you are going to implement revenue management, that is separate application, you have to enable it. Intercompany separate concept, you have to enable. And budgetary concept, if you are going to implement budget, you have to enable it. Below what you could see, these all are related to BI, business intelligence for analysis, data analysis purpose. Those are not options. Some option you can read, those also you can enable. Enable everything, no issues. Okay, enable everything so that you'll be able to implement whatever you take in the subscription. Accordingly, you can implement. When you enable, you can enable everything, no issues at all. Okay. So by default, these will be disabled mode. Okay. Now here you can see these are enabled. Ideally, you can see these are like disabled. In the fresh instance, you can see these as a disabled. So you have to enable what you are going to implement. Accordingly, you can enable. So that the enabled offerings and options only you can select into implementation project. Here we discussed after enabling offerings and options, we create implementation project. When you create implementation project, you can select offerings and options. Say these are the different offerings. If you enable these two only you can select into implementation project. Now in this environment, almost all are enabled. Okay, this we are using for practice purpose. So almost all are enabled. This is how you could see all are disabled in the fresh instance. Even we disabled everything, the general ledger is enabled only. Okay, if you enable finance, automatically you will get general ledger application. Okay. So cash management application will get along with the payables as well as along with the receivables also. Customer invoice processing. You don't need to enable cash management application separately. If you are using payables, you'll get it. If you are going to use receivables, customer invoice processing means receivables will get cash management. That's how it works. So this is how in the fresh instance, this is how you can see the offering. You have to enable offering or as financials. Within that financials offering, what are the options you are going to implement? Options are nothing but applications. So you can enable those options also. So this is what we have to notice. The same is applicable for any offering and any option also.
Actually, I have one question.
Enable everything. Please.
For some of the options like payable, payments, and cash management, I don't see any checkboxes. It's only
It will populate. Now we disable, right? It is just recollecting that information. Wait for a second, it will reflect.
okay.
So if it is not at all enabled, if you enable, immediately it will reflect. Now see here.
Yeah, thank you.
Now we are just for our understanding purpose, we are disabling and enabling. In this process, it is just identifying what need to be defaulted, what should not be. So now you can see those are reflecting. So this is what we have to understand. And another point. So when you implement financials, almost what we have as a part of all these options, you can find as a part of these options. On top of it, if you want to enable some additional features, you can enable. Here, again, is the financials. You can click on features, click on features. So based on the country, or if you want to implement some additional features which are not enabled, by default, all you can see as enable, you see here. For example, you are implementing financials. Along with that, you are implementing application called a GRC, governance risk complaints. That is separate offering related, separate area of applications. If you are going to implement, you can enable it. So you are doing the implementation for US, some government sector project, public sector projects, then you can set the relevant options here. Okay. So apart from that, if anything else you want to enable, you can enable it here. Okay, wherever it is applicable, you can enable. But if you go through this course, you will come to know what we have as a part of this. Accordingly, you can. If something else you want to enable, you can enable. By default, you don't need to set anything. Okay, by default, you don't need to set. So if some company is going to use finance, if along with that, they are going to use applications which are related to GRC, governance risk complaints applications, you can enable the checkbox. That's how the additional options can be enabled by using the features option. Just you can click on that. Not only at financials level, applications levels also you can enable certain features. So anything you want to additionally you want to include depending on the business requirement or country or business process, you can enable. But by default, not required. If anything else we have to enable, we'll discuss. By default, everything would be available. Everything will be available. See here, supplier invoice processing. The supplier invoice processing related to suppliers or payments, payables or cash management, anything you want to include, enable, you can enable. But mostly you can see all are enabled. You don't need to additionally do anything until unless something is required as per the country or business process, etc. Now just click on done. Just
Actually,
click
I
on-
have one question.
Yeah, please.
Anything very specific to European country related to GDPR compliant?
Anything specific to?
Anything which is related to European countries like the GDPR compliant, do we need to enable anything specific?
No, not required. It will be part of, okay, it will be part of. On top of it, anything else you want to enable, you can enable. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
When you are doing the setups, you will have complete information which will support based on the country where you are doing the implementation. Yeah. So in the options in the futures, you can have a look. If you think something else is required, that you can enable. That's all. Yeah. So this is how you have to select offering and you can enable it. In this instance, already is enabled. In the first instance, you can see as a not enabled. You can click on opt-in features and you can enable. And here you can see related documents related to financials. You can expand this related documents. You can see associated features within the financials. What are the different features are available? You can find all the features in these documents. The documents are available in these three formats: PDF, HTML, Excel. You can click on this HTML format and the associated features document will be downloaded. In the same way, to implement these financials applications, the setup, task list and task. What are the setups we have to perform? all the setups list you can see if you download this document in any one of the format. The business objects and enterprise applications, this is not useful information. So you may just download these documents and you can have a look. Now we didn't discuss anything. We don't know features and setups and all. I am not touching this. So after some time, you may download this document. You may have a look, but not required. If you are interested to see inside what we have, you can see that. Okay. Notice this point. Okay. Here there are documents. You can click on that and the document will be downloaded. You can go through it if you want to see. But in this stage, not required. Once we start working on the system, once we are aware of how to do the setups and all, you may just click on that. You can have a look so that you can understand those. Otherwise, not required. In the same way, you want to implement procurement offering. So you can select procurement, same process. Select procurement. And within the procurement, what we have, you could see here. Or else if you want to go and see what are the applications we have as a part of procurement, click on opt-in features. You see the procurement also enabled in this environment. Almost all the offerings are enabled. You can click on opt-in features. What are the different applications we have as a part of procurement? Let's have a look. Just click on opt-in features. So as a part of procurement, okay, this is a procurement offering. What we have, purchasing application we have. Okay, purchasing application. And other application is self-service procurement. Okay, self-service procurement. This you can call as iProcurement. iProcurement also. And you have like other applications like supplier portal. That you can call as iSupplier also, sourcing application and procurement contracts. These are the different applications or different options we have as a part of procurement. Now, so we are accessing this instance. Now this instance is which release. If you want to understand, we have option. You can go and check. As per the release, which new features are available, you can check by clicking on this new features tab. Okay, by clicking on new features tab, you can verify in which release what are the additional features Oracle is introducing, that you can verify. Okay, you can check by clicking on new features, what are the new features are available in which release, what new features Oracle is introducing, that you can verify within the instance only. Okay, so within this instance only you can verify. So here you can see this is just a patch application. I'll explain that so that this you easily can understand. Okay, so here you can see 22C. Okay, 22C. This what does it mean by this 22C? What exactly the release of instance we are using? We can understand how to check. So if you want to verify which release of instance we are using, you can click on the username. Just click on the username. And here we have one task called as about this application. Okay, about this application. You can click on this about this application. And here you can see 11.13.22.070. So Fusion applications version is 11. Okay, Fusion applications version is 11, but we never refer Fusion applications with version. Always we refer Fusion applications with release. Now release is 13. So prior to 13, we have a 12, 11, okay, 10, 9. Almost clients started using from release 7 onwards. Okay, in the market, companies are started using Fusion applications from release 7. From before 7, we have 6, 5 also, but Oracle was not given to the customers. They used that for internal purpose, for testing, to identify how the product is working. So from release 7 onwards, they released that product into market. Clients started using. After that, they released 8 and 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. From that, once they reach 13, they stopped upgrading the releases. After 13, they are not giving 14, 15, 16. What they are doing is, after release 13, this is 13 means release 13 we call as R13, release 13. After release 13, they released into market around 3 years back. 3 years back. So then how they are updating, how they are doing the updates. After release 13, what they are doing is any changes what they are doing, the changes they are representing with this like this. That means how recently they did some changes to that instance, some new features or whatever the changes, what they are doing, all they are, instead of making it as release 14, release 15, release 16, instead of that, they are standing with release 13 and they are updating the information. Here you see 22 means year, 2022 year. And from year they are taking the suffix. Instead of giving 2022, just they are giving 22. That means year. And 7 means month. Okay, 7 means month. In every quarter, what Oracle is doing is they are applying some patches. They're applying the patches on instance. With that patches, what they are doing is they're adding some new features. They are updating existing features as per the upgrade requirement. So that means this environment, okay, this environment is last update when they did in this instance, year 2022, the month is July month. Again, next when they do the next quarter, okay, September. Now we are in September. October, November, December is the next quarter. So here you can see 22C. 22C means C represents quarter. So 4 times they are doing the updates in the every year on the instance. So 22A means first quarter. 22B means second quarter. Now we are in third quarter. So C. Okay. 22C means we are in third quarter. 22D, it will be updated as a 22D, means the fourth quarter patch also applied on that instance. That's how you can find out which instance is how much latest you can identify. Even if you see 22A, 22B, also no worries. Okay. So from finance side, there are no changes which you can see. Even if you see the instance, okay. So with 22A or 22B, you don't need to worry about it. Our financials, what features we have, you can access even you see the instance with the 22A or 22B, even 21A, B, C, D, any quarter patch you find in this instance, no worries. That will support in all the features. So this is how you can identify the environment belongs to which release. It's a release 13. And 22C means this is a patch related update. Okay, year 2022, the C patch means third quarter patch is applied. So that is the meaning of this instance. Okay, the release and the patch. Any questions on this, please?
So Lakshan, let's say when we buy this subscription in 20B or 21C, this will automatically upgrade our application version as well, or
Yes.
Okay.
Answer is yes. That Oracle will take care. Okay, Oracle will apply this quarterly patches. So that's how it will get updated. Any other questions, please? Okay, now what we have to understand is our fusion applications release is 13. Simply you can say which release you are using is 13. Where you can find 13? Here. You have to click on the username, click on about this application. How to find which release of application we are using? You can click on about this. Here you can see 11 is the version, but we never refer fusion applications with the version. Always Oracle is working on the releases only. It's the release 13 you have to call. We have 11 for database also, 11G. Okay, we are not talking about database version. This is the applications version. Release is 13. Here you can notice how like the patch applications are done on this instance. With this, you can find year and This is the quarter representation. Exactly in that quarter, in which month the patches of Oracle applied, you can see. The month is 7 means July month. So same 22C related, what changes they are representing and all you can see. Mostly finance related, you don't see some procurement and other areas and some sourcing, supply qualification. Mostly you see those. So finance, you don't see big impact of these patches, etc. Yep. So finance is very much stabilized long time. So that's how you can go and enable offerings and options, and you can verify the features if you want to check. Just now we have seen how you can enable the offerings and options. Any questions here, please?
LAXMAN,
Please.
this let's say that opt-in feature is there. So for example, financials, I haven't included expenses. Okay. At later point in my this implementation, I need it. So I can go and enable again. And is there anything restriction criteria?
No
So anytime we can enable.
Anytime you can go and do enable any offering or option, and that you can select into your project so that you can do the setups and you can implement it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Any other questions, please?
Yeah, LAXMAN, the subscription is paid based on the modules that we select, and you are saying if general ledger is selected.
Applications wise, see, if you are taking the subscription for only payables, by default you get general ledger. Without general ledger, you cannot use any application. That is the reason. So if you are taking payables, you will get general ledger. You are taking only receivables, you will get general ledger. You want to take only general ledger? Yes, you can take it.
True, but if you select payables, automatically cash management is also enabled, right? That's what you are saying.
Correct. Cash management will get enabled.
So we need to pay anything additional to cash management as a module?
Since cash management is part of payables also, because the payables, the cash management is required. If you are going to use the payables cash management only to create the bank accounts, you don't need to pay extra for cash management. If you are going to use the cash management bank statement reconciliation purpose, you have to pay.
Okay.
That is a condition, because in payables, if you want to make the payments to supplier, you need bank accounts, right? With the bank account, you can make the payment to supplier.
Right.
So it's a dependency. Payables will have a dependency on cash management for bank accounts purpose. Are going to use only payables. If you want to use payables, you need bank accounts. Bank accounts you can have only in the cash management. So that is a shade. Okay, that is a shade option that you can use. You don't need to pay anything extra. Just to use the bank accounts from cash management, you don't need to pay anything extra. If you want to do the bank statement reconciliations also, that you have to pay for cash management.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Any other questions? Okay, no questions. Here, let's try to understand a few more points also. Okay. So if you want to implement, okay, PPM, if you want to implement PPM, you have to use these two offerings. PPM is one offering only. When Oracle introduced this PPM related different application, they introduced in the two phases. That is the reason. If you are going to implement PPM application, project portfolio management, you have to select project execution management and project financial management. If you combine these two, that we call as PPM. In the same way, HCM, human capital management. If you are going to implement human capital management HCM, you have to combine workforce deployment and workforce development. If you combine these two, that you can find it as a HCM, human capital management, where we can have HR application, payroll application, absence, talent, and different applications, time and labor. Those all are part of these two offerings. So why these are there as a separate? That's how Oracle released. At a time, they didn't release everything. First, they just introduced one part of that offering, and later they released. If any client is going to implement a complete solution of HCM, they'll just select these two, or else whatever they are going to implement accordingly, they can select. And if you are going to implement SCM, supply chain management application, what Oracle it is, SCM solution they didn't introduce in one go. Phase by phase they introduced. So inventory part, product management. If you select product management, inventory application you will get. If you want to get purchasing application, you have to select procurement. For order management, this is what you have to select. If you select these three offerings, reality, these three are not offerings, this is only offering. And these two are part of SCM, but they introduce these as a separate offerings since they introduce as a solutions as a one by one. So if you combine this order management, product management, okay, and the procurement, these are equal to SCM, supply chain management. But when you talk about financials, yes, we have as a financials, the complete solution they introduced at a time. So that is the reason you can see as a one offering separately. So this is what you have to understand about these offerings. And just click on done. So that's all about how to enable the offerings and options. Why we are enabling offerings and options? When you create implementation project, if offerings and options are enabled, you cannot select those. If you don't select within that project, you cannot do the setups. Now let's talk about how to create implementation project. Do we need to create implementation project reality? Yes, we have to create. Really, is it mandatory? No, it is not mandatory. If you create implementation project and if you do the setups, there are certain advantages. To opt those advantages, we create implementation project, but always we create implementation project so that our setup process also will become very easy. How exactly once we start doing the setups, we will understand. But now take the simple point. To do the setups, we are creating implementation project. Implementation project creation is not mandatory, not compulsory. Without creating implementation project also, we can do the setups within the FSM. Within the functional setup manager, we can do the setups without creating implementation project also. If you create implementation project, there are few advantages. Those we'll see very soon. Now offerings and options are enabled in this instance. Now we can create implementation project. When you talk about implementation project creation, we have two options. One is, first you can create implementation project. Later you can add offerings and options into that implementation project. That is one option. Or else during the implementation project, you can add the offerings and options. Okay, during the implementation project creation itself, you can add the offerings and options into that project. Or else first you create empty implementation project. Later you can add whatever the offerings and options are required. Now we'll go and we'll test both. So let's see how to create implementation project. To create implementation project, here you have a task list. Okay, here you can see one notepad kind of icon. This we call as a task list. It contains multiple tasks, or you can call it as a task panel. You can click on this. So within this, what are the tasks are available, you can see. You just click on this task list. It will list out what are the tasks are available inside. These are all we call as a different tasks. How to navigate to this page, we know very well. You have to click on username. You just click on username and it will open the panel. Within the panel, you have to click on setup and maintenance so that we can get navigated to FSM page. Now what we see, that is FSM page only. Again, we are taking the navigation. Just click on setup and maintenance task. It will display this FSM page. Within the FSM page only, you can just go to that. Let me refresh this environment link.
Actually, just one question.
Yeah, please.
Although you will be going to explain the advantages of project implementation, this will also help us to clone the setups from one instance to another instance?
Yes. If you create the project, you can move the setups from one to other instance.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Fine. Okay. Now I want to create implementation project. To create implementation project, just click on the username. The panel is open. click on setup and maintenance tasks so that we can navigate to FSM page, functional setup manager page. From functional setup manager page, we'll be able to create the implementation project. This is FSM page, functional setup manager page. Here you can see one task list. This we call as a task list. Just click on this task list. It will display inside of this task list what tasks are available. Okay, just click on task list. So within this task list, one of the tasks is related to our implementation project. You see this, manage implementation projects. Okay, manage implementation projects. If you want to create the implementation project, just click on this implementation project. Okay, click on manage implementation projects. And how many implementation projects we have to create? Here in this instance, you can see many implementation projects. So these are the different implementation projects which are created. But remember one thing. For one company, okay, for one company, say for example, the company called as some ABC company is going to implement Fusion applications. When Oracle is going to provide this instance to ABC company, this instance should be used by ABC company only. Some XYZ company and other company should not use this instance. One instance Oracle is providing for that one client only. One instance can be used by multiple clients also. Okay, one instance can be used by multiple clients, but Oracle doesn't allow that. So this is a test instance we are using for testing purpose, learning purpose. That is the reason you can see people created different projects with a different company's name. But reality, you don't see like this. Okay, so you are doing the implementation for a company called as TCS. That means here we'll create TCS project only. You don't create Wipro project or Infosys project. So that's how it works. So since it's a training practice related instance, you can see different projects with the different companies. When you navigate to this page, okay, you don't find single project also in this. Okay, when you navigate to this page, so you will find this page as a blank. No project you can see within this implementation project page. The page would be blank page. So to which client you are doing the implementation, accordingly you have to create. This is how you can find the blank page. Okay, I searched this by giving one dot. So equivalent project is not there. That's the reason it's displaying like that. So this is how you can find the empty page. So you have to create the project from here. How many projects you have to create? So ideally what we do is we create for each country one project. You are doing the implementation for your client where they are operating the business in 4 countries. For 4 countries, you can create the 4 projects so that your setup process will become easy. When we are doing the setups, you can do the setups country wise. There won't be any confusion who are working for that implementation. The consultants who are going to work for those 4 countries, there won't be any confusion. The setup process will become very smooth. Or else for 4 countries, you can create single implementation project and you can do the setups. Sometimes by mistake, you may commit with the wrong value selection within the project. How exactly we will see when we are doing the setups. That is the reason. As a best practice, what we do is we create separate implementation projects country wise and we do the setups. So this is the point we have to understand. If you want to create the project like finance implementation project, say you are doing implementation in one country only. Even if you are doing implementation in one country, you can create multiple projects. How? You can create one implementation project for finance, one implementation project for SCM, one implementation project for HCM, another implementation project maybe for PPM. Nothing wrong, you can create like that, but not at all required. We never do that. When you copy the setups from one to other instance, that will create some challenging. Okay, that is the reason. Offerings wise, we can create that system will support, but we never do that. So always we create country specific implementation projects for that country. What are the offerings and options we are going to implement? Those will include in that project and you can do the setups. The total setups, if you want to move to other instance, easily you can move. If you have a project, within the project, if you have offerings and options. So this is a point you have to understand. Any questions on this, please? Any questions on this point, please?
Lakshman, one thing I want to ask you here. Suppose we are implementing the project for one organization who has business in several countries.
Okay.
Then for each country, we will define a legal entity kind of thing right here. So each project will be at the legal entity level.
No, I'll discuss all those points. No. Simple.
Okay, fine.
Okay. See, in one project, you can create multiple also. The legal entity is the term what we are referring.
Okay.
Not only that, for that country, whatever to implement for one country, whatever the setups you do, all the setups you can do in one project, or else one country setups also you can do in the multiple project. That flexibility we have. Okay. So there is no specific point. This level we create the project. For our convenience, we can create the projects.
Okay.
The best convenience for us is country specific project creation. How exactly also we will understand going forward. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. We don't fix anything. When you create project, we don't fix this project is belongs to so and so country. This project is belongs to so and so. We know nothing we are going to set as a default. Yeah. So flexible to do the setups for one country or multiple countries. You create one project. You can do the setups for one country, or you can do the setups for 100 countries, possible. But we have to look at the points. What is the best practice? Why? Those points we will understand. Any other questions, please?
Lakshman, I think yesterday I asked the same question, one question yesterday. So,
yeah.
Sorry for repeating that. So as you said, for each country, we can create a separate project so that it will be easy for us to move those setups which we have created, to other instances. So you have that feature.
No, one second. The second point, what you said, I said, for each country, we can create the separate project. I said, other instance, what you said?
No, I said it'll be easy for us to move the setups to other instances.
Yeah.
Correct.
Even if you do the setups, okay, in one project for multiple countries also, yes, you can move. What I said is, if you have implementation project, you can move the setups.
Yeah, that's what. Sorry, I should have used implementation project. Correct.
Yes.
So for one country, you can create one project also and create one setups.
Correct.
And which is country specific setups. And you can also create one project with 4 countries. For example, yesterday I asked you. So you can create one project with multiple countries, like 4 countries I asked, for example.
Yes.
And also you said like Oracle is providing a default enterprise.
No, we didn't discuss any.
We didn't discuss that. Okay.
This batch.
Something like that I heard. Okay.
Maybe you've gone through the previous batch videos.
Oh, I don't know.
There is no point of enterprise we discuss. We'll discuss. That is
okay. Okay, fine. Thank you.
Yeah, that is not anyway. Since you are raising that point, let me give some clarity. That enterprise is nowhere connected with your project again. Yeah. Okay. Enterprise is not at all specific to your implementation project.
Okay.
At the instance level.
Oh, it's an instance.
Yes, instance. That you can make a note anyway when we discuss and we work on that. We will discuss very detailed level and we'll see.
I noted down. Thank you.
Thanks. Right. Any other questions? Okay, no questions. Now we'll see how to create implementation project. Okay. How we navigated to this page we have seen. If you want to create implementation project, here you can click on create. Just click on create icon. So it will fetch the default name and you can modify and you can create the implementation project. Just click on create. So it's creating implementation project with a default name. You can change. So create implementation project, enter basic information. So it is taking the automatically name implementation project 5, and it is taking code description status, and automatically the project is assigned to current user TCS and start date. When we are starting this project, here as project means setups only. Remember that point, very important. Now don't consider the entire implementation process. No, the entire implementation, one of the activities is setups. To perform the setups only, we are creating this implementation project. Okay. Any question?
Lakshman, sorry,
Please.
again, so this is since this being a mission instance, so we are seeing an implementation project number. So if it is a fresh instance, how it will have the naming convention here?
1, it starts with 1.
1. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
We'll
you.
see it always, just see, because why they are showing like that number they are changing. I created one implementation project, I saved as it is what system generated. You are trying to create implementation project, your project should be unique, right? That is the reason number they are triggering some sequence.
Got it. Thank you.
Modify how you want to see the naming convention, accordingly you can modify it.
Okay. So this is a alphanumeric one.
Yes, the name under, yeah, alphanumeric.
Okay.
The text and some number it will generate.
Thank you.
Lakshman, any prerequisite to have what kind of role should have the TCS user or any user with for which we are assigning the?
Yes. The same we discussed in the last session. Okay, these 2 roles are required.
Okay, thank you.
Application implementation consultant and IT security manager. These 2 roles we have to assign to the user who is going to work as a consultant. Now we are able to access FSM because of application implementation consultant role. The application implementation consultant role is helping us to access FSM. From FSM, we can enable offerings and options, and we can create implementation project, and we can select offerings and options. System will create task list, and setups also we can do with the help of FSM. That means with the help of application implementation consultant role only. Now, so here let's take the company name as a Google. Later we'll change the names. We'll take some other company. Okay, since it's just with very initial classes, I'm taking this name. Later we'll change it. Let's hope with this name no project is created. I'm taking Google implementation project. In fact, Google is using Oracle. Okay, just give the update the name. The same name it will be copy as a code and a description also. Okay, so here whatever just name system defaulted, we updated. We given the Google, and the number whatever it is generated, we changed. Now the changes it will reflect to code and description. See the same it is taking as a code. Okay, completely uppercase. The space it is filling with underscore, and the same name it is taking as a description. Okay. So here you may write this Google implementation project for setups purpose. Any description you can write. And status is not started. Yes, we not yet started doing the setups by using this implementation project. That is the reason the default status is not started. And whom you are assigning to this project. Project assignment is not mandatory. Okay, you can select blank also. So the field is not mandatory. And another point is who has to create this implementation project. Any consultant can create this implementation project. Okay, any consultant can create this implementation project. So don't think project manager has to create implementation project because this is implementation project. This is not an implementation project. This is setup project. Name they given as implementation project. Reality, this is a project which we are creating just to perform the setups. So who has to create implementation project? The consultant, any consultant. Say you are going to implement finance, SC, PPM, HCM. So who knows how to create implementation project? Any consultant can create. Okay, it's not mandatory only finance consultant has to create or a SCM, HCM. Anyone can create, right? So from which user you are creating implementation project, by default, the project can be assigned to the same user. If you want to change, you can change also. You can remove that user or else you can click on search. You click on search within this instance, what are the users are available. It will display all the users and you can select any one of the user to assign to this project. If you assign any this project to any user, just for information purpose, you can see when you look at that project, system will display this project is associated with the so-and-so user. That's how it will display. Apart from that, you cannot do anything. So I want to assign this to so-and-so user. So I want to assign to user called as ERPTREE search. I guess we have this ERPTREE user in this environment. Just try to find out this ERPTREE user. This user is there. You can select and you can say OK. Now this project will be assigned to ERPTREE user. So when ERPTREE user will log into this instance, this project can be defaulted for this user. System will display this user is to this user so and so project is assigned. That's how you can see that information in the system environment. Because this project is going to be assigned to ERPTREE user, this user is not going to get any additional privileges. Okay, this user also will act as another users. Only the advantage is when you log into the instance with this username, this user, the project will be defaulted. This is the point you have to understand. Okay, assignment is not mandatory also. Okay, you can ignore. You can ignore the assignment or else you can just leave as it is. By default, system is picking TCS user because from TCS user only we are creating. You may select it. Now, start date and a finish date. Why we are creating implementation project? Just to perform the setups only. Okay, just to perform the setups, we are creating implementation project. So when we are going to start with the setups, by which date we are going to complete the setup, that you can give the dates. Start date is mandatory. You can notice here star mark is there. That means there is a mandatory field. The finish date is not mandatory. You can give some tentative finish date, approximately when you are going to complete the setups. Okay, not mandatory. If you want to give, you can give it. Say I'm going to give, we are going to complete the setups by say 20th. For example, we are going to complete all the setups by 20th. Yes, we given finish date as a 20th. This is just for information purpose only. After 20th also, you will be able to do the setups. Okay, no controls from the system side. And anyone can do the setups by using this project. At the time of project creation, the project we are assigning to TCS, that is again not mandatory. Who got access to application implementation consultant role, those all can have access to FSM. Within the FSM only, we are creating this project. By using this project, anyone can work on this project. Anyone can work on this project means anyone can do the setups. So this is how you can provide the details and then you can click on next and you can include the offerings and options. Before we proceed, any questions here, please?
Yeah, Lakshman. So regarding this finish date, so once we give the finish date, so we can modify, right? Again, so if you want
Anytime you can modify, even if you keep that as it is also no issues. After that finish date also, you'll be able to work on the project.
Okay, so and one more thing.
Useful to track the progress of the project, which when the project need to be completed and how many days late. These all details can be captured.
Okay. So and one more thing is we specifically assign to some TCS.
Your voice is not that much clear. Can you just mic or something, if any? Yeah, please.
Yeah, here we specifically assign to some TCS user, right? So after finishing this setups and everything, so where exactly we can see those setups to do some modification later time?
We'll see that we have to move forward. Then we can see. Yeah.
Okay.
After creating implementation project, you can do the changes. Now we are just discussing how to create implementation project. After creating, I'll show you that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Fine. So this is how you can give the project name and you may assign the project to specific user. That is just for information purpose, so that for that user, this project will be defaulted when the user will connect to this instance. You can provide start date, finish dates. Now you can click on next. Please go on mute. somebody, Prasad or somebody is unmuted. Okay, just click on next. Now, what we did, the offerings, whatever enabled in this environment, all system will display. In the current instance, all the offerings are enabled. We just verified few. Finance we verified that is enabled. HCM we verified that is enabled. So almost all the offerings are enabled in this instance. Now system will display all the offerings which are enabled in this instance, so that what are the offerings and options you are going to implement, those you can include into your project. Now you see, these are the different offerings. How come you are able to see here? These all are enabled already in this environment. Say for example, financials is disabled, not enabled. You don't see financials here. If you don't see financials here, you cannot include that into your project. Okay. So now what you can do is, say we want to implement financials. If you want to implement financials, you can include nothing but we are selecting these financials into our implementation project. Okay, just you can say include. When you include, it will expand. Inside of the financials, what are the options are available, it will display, and you can include what exactly you are going to implement as a part of this project. So financials is expanded, and enable include checkbox, it is expanded. So we are going to implement payables. So supplier invoice processing means payables, we include it. So you are going to implement expenses. Include expenses. We are going to implement fixed assets. Include. We are going to implement customer invoice processing, nothing but receivables application. Include. So whatever you are going to implement, just include like this. So what as a part of financials, you can include it. Just 1 second, let me explain few points. I'll take your questions. Include. I'm including whatever we have as a part of financials. Even if you don't implement those, no issues. If you include, those would be available. Reality, if you are going to implement, you can proceed, or else you can ignore those as a part of project. So I'm going to include that BI analysis. We'll see that what is a BI, OTB, and all those we discussed. So you can just enable these check boxes. Okay, it will expand, and you have to enable application wise. So what I'm doing, I'm including everything which is available as a part of financials. That's all. So within the financials offering, what are the different options are available, sub options also, everything I included. And if you notice here, you don't find general ledger application. Why? If you include financials, you will get general ledger application by default. And again, you don't find here cash management application also. At the time of enabling the offerings and options, there we noticed that is part of payables and receivables. And when you enable financials, automatically system is enabling general ledger application. Here again, it won't display, but we have to understand. If you include financials, you'll get general ledger. If you include payables or receivables, you'll get cash management application also. That's what you have to understand. This is how you have to include the specific offerings and options. Any questions, please?
So this checkbox is only for offering and options, not for features.
No, from beginning we are discussing the same. We are always offerings and options only. Okay. So when you say option, payables, inside of payables, you will have a features. Inside of receivables, you will have a features. Those you don't need to select. Whatever you want to implement, implement. Whatever you don't want to implement, ignore it. That's how it works. Only offerings and options. Enabling offerings and options. Okay, selecting offerings and options into project. If you want to select some specific features also, we have option. Okay, don't select like this. There is separate option. I'll show all those. Any other questions, please? Okay, so I included financials. Okay, just collapse this selection. Just collapse this. And if you want to include any other offerings and options into project, you can follow the same process. Okay, you can enable, you can include that specific offering. Instead of the offering, you can include the options here. For example, you want to include procurement also, you can just include it within the procurement. What are the options are available, it will display, and you can select whatever required. But now just we included only financials. Within the financials, whatever the different options are available, everything we included. So any questions here, please? Now we are including financials. Later point of time, if you want to include any other offerings and options, yes, that is possible. At any point of time, you can include and you can exclude also. That is also possible. You can exclude also. You can do. Any questions, please?
Lakshman, since financials is enabled, so since financial modules are tightly integrated with supply chain, right? So we can enable the procurement and the SEM modules as well, right? Because we'll be doing the procure to pay.
If you are going to implement those, you can include. Anyway, those are integrated. Those are as applications that we don't do anything. So you are going to implement only finance for our client. Include finance, you can do finance setups and the client will start using finance. Along with the finance, client is taking the subscription for SCM. Include SCM. SCM means what exactly we discussed. You have to include procurement, order management, product management.
Correct.
Three you can include so that you can implement SCM, supply chain management, and they can start recording the transactions within the finance, within the SCM, across the finance and SCM. They can record the transaction. The connectivity already Oracle built between the applications that we need to touch.
Got it.
Fine. Now you can click on save and open project so that system will create the task list. Okay, system will create the task list. So click on save and open project. Now what system will do is within the financials, we selected included supplier invoice processing. Supplier invoice processing means what? Payables. To implement payables applications, what setups we have to perform? It will generate all the setup list. And we included expense application. To implement expense application, what setups we have to perform? All the setup list it will generate. The same way for fixed assets and receivables application, collection application, whatever we included into our project as a part of offerings. Okay, what are the options we have for all those? System will create the task list. Task list is nothing but list of setups. Again, what system will do is the setups also it will group. Payable setups it will group with a separate folder. Expense application related setups it will group with one folder option. The same way fixed assets for every application, or you can say every option. Application means option as per FSM. So for every option, it will create the separate folders. Within those folders, you can see the list of the setups which are classified with the relevance. So that's how system will create the one folder. Within that folder, you can find the task list which are related to specific offering and options. We'll see that. It takes some time because we selected different options. For all these options, it has to generate the tasks.
Lakshman, one question. If I want to go for a financial offering with iSupplier portal offering, how we can go for it? I mean, here we need to select the iSupplier portal offering.
Do you have iSupplier in financials?
No.
No, you want to go along with the financials?
Yes.
Okay, then do one thing. Go to procurement, enable procurement, and select only supplier portal. Only supplier portal. That's all.
So that means we need to buy the subscription for procurement also, right? Or
also now in procurement supplier portal only you can take subscription.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, see, you want to use only payables and receivables. You don't need to take the subscription for entire financials, right? In financials, you are taking the subscription for payables and receivables. That's all. Yeah, you can pick specific application. Yeah. Now you can see the project. This is the basic information, whatever we provided as a part of project creation. You can see here. If any details you want to edit anytime, you can click on edit. Only code you cannot change. The rest of any details you can change. You can change the project name. You can change the description. You can change the status. So you started working on this project. You started doing the setups. You can set the status as in progress. You completed all the setups within this project. You can set the status as a completed. Say we started working on this project. You can set the status as in progress. You want to change the assignment, as you can change. You want to change these dates and all, you can change. So this is how you can change. Only code you cannot change. Okay, code system is freezing. Once you create the implementation project, the code system is freezing, that you cannot update. Now, if you look at this project, you can understand the project status is in progress. That means we started doing the setups. That is the meaning of it. Since we selected only financials, the financials it is creating one folder. Now you can expand it. Expand this folder. Within this folder, you can find the subfolders. So if we talk about payables, this is a folder for payables. We included payables option also into our project creation. So it is creating one folder called as define invoicing and payment configuration. So with this folder, you will be able to implement the payables application. Okay, you will be able to implement the payables application. You can expand this define invoicing and payment configuration. Okay, wherever you see the folder option that you call as a task list, you can see that pop up also. Task list means list of tasks, where you can have a list of tasks within the folder. You just expand this folder. Just expand this folder. Within this folder, you can have a subfolders also. So all the setups which are related to payables, all the setups you can find in that folder. Again, within that folder, you see multiple subfolders also available. Sorry. So within the define invoicing and payment configuration, these are the subfolders. These also we call as a task list only. Wherever you see the folder that you call as a task list. Now you can say define payables is one of the task list. Define disbursement is one of the task list. Define supplier configuration for pay financials is task list. So you can further, you can expand that folder, any one of the folder, you just expand it. Within that folder, finally you can find the task. Okay, with the task only you can do the setups. Okay. So under define payables folder means under this task list, we have a multiple tasks. So these are the tasks. With these tasks, you can do the setups. Say, for example, you want to create the payment terms. What is the purpose of payment terms? Where we have to create, we'll discuss later. Just for our understanding purpose, you want to create payment terms. Simply, you can click on this go to task icon. Click on go to task icon. It will take us to payment terms creation page. It will take us to payment terms creation page. There you can create the payment terms as per our requirement. You just click on go to task icon. This we call as go to task icon. You can see this column name. Just click on this go to task icon. It will take us to payment terms creation page that we call as a task. Wherever you see this go to task icon, that only we call as a task. The rest all we can call as a task list. Here you can create the payment terms. By clicking on create, you can create. We'll see like when we have to create, we'll create. Now it is not required. Just click on done to close this page. So this is what you have to understand related to project creation. And if I want to do any setup, every time I don't need to take the navigation. Okay, just now we have seen the navigation, right? So we are going to payables and we are expanding different folders and we are working on it. So we expanded financials, right? Inside you could see define invoicing and payment configuration. Let me collapse this. Say for example, now I want to create the payment terms. If I want to create the payment terms, we have to expand this financials and we have to go to just expand it. Click on expand. Just to understand, I'm taking through this. You don't need to do this every time. Expand financials. So within the finance, you want to create payment terms. To create the payment terms, you can go to payables. Payables is define invoicing and payment configuration. You have to expand this. This is all we call as navigations. Okay. First, you have to go to financials, then you have to go to define invoicing and payment configuration. You have to expand it. Within that, you can go to define payables. If you expand define payables, there we have a manage payment terms. This we call as a navigation. Go to financials, go to define invoice and payment configuration. Go to define payables. There you can find the task called as manage payment terms. This we call as a navigation or path we call. But in the fusion, you don't need to follow this. Okay, you don't need to follow this. So you can just collapse this. Just click on this collapse. So what you can do is any setup, please don't play with this. Why you are doing somebody is drawing. Thank you. Please don't play with the tools and all. Okay, please don't do that. Fine. So if you want to do any setup, simply you can search from here. Okay, you don't need to remember the navigation. If somebody is from EBS background, what are the setups we do? Mostly we should remember the navigation. The specific responsibility how to remember the navigation. Of course, some short way also is available, but mostly you should remember. But in the fusion, if you want to do any setup, directly you can search from here. What you want to do, you want to create the payment terms. Simply you can search for payment terms. Payment terms. Okay, just click on search for the payment terms without following any navigation. Directly system will display the task here. We are searching for payment terms. With the term called as payment term, what are the different tasks are available? All system will list out. Directly you can perform it. See, it is showing manage payment terms directly. You can click on go to task and you can perform the task. So this is how you can search for anything and you can perform the setups. Okay, done. So how to do the setups anyway, we have time to start with that setup process. Before we proceed with the setups, what are the points we have to discuss related to this project, we'll discuss. So we enabled offerings and options. We created implementation project. We selected implementation project. We selected offerings and options into implementation project. And the system created task list. And you don't want to include the offerings and options as a part of implementation project. Okay, after creating, you want to include. Let's see how to create one more implementation project to understand that point. Okay, just click on create. And here, I want to give the name as a XYZ implementation project. XYZ implementation project. Now, what I want to do is, I don't want to include any offerings and options into my project. Okay, by clicking on next. If I click on next, it will display what are the offerings and options are enabled in this instance. I don't want to do that. Okay, so click on save and open project so that system will create the empty project with this XYZ implementation name. With these details, it will create the project without any offerings and options. You can click on save and open project directly. Don't click on next. Directly click on save and open project. It will create empty project. Into empty project, you can select entire offering or specific option or specific task list. In payables, we have seen different folders we have within the payables. Those task lists you can select, or else single task also you can select into project. So if you click on next, you can select only offerings and options. If you create the empty blank project, you will be able to select whatever you require. Okay, there will be an option to choose what you want to include in the project. I'll open one more tab for the same instance so that we'll compare and we'll refer and we'll take the information.
Lakshman, I have one question.
Yeah, please.
So as I said that we can create a project based on the operating unit implementation as well. So if we go
Not
for
like
that,
that. Not like that.
yeah,
That statement is not correct.
okay,
We'll discuss when you deal with that.
all right.
I'll explain. Not based on operating unit or business unit. We'll discuss those.
Lakshman, one more question, sir. So here, not required to run the replicate data while creating the project.
Not required. But
Okay.
here in the EBS only. In the future, we don't have such kind of concept. You don't need to run. Not required in the future.
Okay.
Fine.
Lakshman, I have one question here.
Yeah.
If I complete one of the tasks, so do I need to change the status manually or system will update automatically?
Manually only. We have to change
Okay.
it.
So in real time also we need to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because simple. What are the setups you are doing? How many you are going to create? System cannot understand, right? For example, payment terms you have to create. Okay. In one implementation, you may create 100, in another implementation, you may create a 200, in another implementation, you may create 50, for example. So I created 10 payment terms. Then what system has to do? What system has to understand? It cannot understand anything, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Certain setups will do one time only. That system can understand. Okay. So that is okay. But certain setup system cannot understand. That is the reason they give an option as we have to update.
Okay.
You are working on it or else you are already completed. Even if you say that setup is completed, still it will allow you to work on it. We'll discuss. That concept is like updating the status and assigning the offerings, options, task list, task to the team members. After discussing this, I'll take you through that concept also. Okay, we'll go on.
Okay.
Fine. Now here you can see empty project is created. Okay, the status not started, assigned to TCS is the date. We didn't provide any finish date. Empty project is created. So whatever the project already we created, we'll go to that. I just open the same instance in the different tab. Okay. The same instance you can open in the multiple tabs. Okay, just I open. So here, this is the empty project which we created. And other project what we created, we'll go to that project. Go to setup and maintenance. Okay, let it open. Meantime, here you can see. From here, you can add your offerings and options. Okay, you can add offerings and options. Let's go to our project. You can take the reference. Click on task list. Now click on manage implementation projects. If you click on manage implementation projects, what are the projects are available in this instance? All the projects it will display. Our TCS user got access to application implementation consultant role. Our TCS user can have access to all the projects which are created in this environment because TCS user got access to FSM, functional setup manager. See all the projects this user can see. If you click on overview, to this user, which projects are assigned, you can see. Okay, if you click on overview, to this TCS user, how many projects are assigned, only it will display. It will filter. Okay, it will filter to this user, how many projects are assigned. That system will filter and it will display. How many projects? 2 projects. Just now we created one more, right? This is a Google project, Google implementation project. Other one is XYZ implementation project. Now just click on Google implementation project. Now expand it. Expand financials. Now this is how we have inside. Now we created empty project. Now if you want to include financials, you can include. Click on add icon. So what we are doing, we created empty project. We created empty project. After creating empty project, what offerings, what options, what task list, which task you want to include, you can include. Click on add. Here search you can see as offering. Offering means offering only. Task list means it could be option name or within the option specific task list. We'll take that. I'm selecting offering called as financials. So I created empty implementation project. I'm going to add financials. Click on search and select this financials. See here, the entire financials I'm selecting. Notice here, I'm not selecting within the financials what we need. Entire financials I'm selecting. Okay, just select it, click on apply. So when you click on apply, what system will do is for financials, to implement financials, what are the setups you have to complete? All the setups it will generate. It will create the task list for entire financials. Within the financials, how it will create like this only. The Google implementation project, how it is created within the financials, it will create all these folders. Within each folder, if applicable, it will create the subfolders. Within the subfolders, it will create the tasks. Okay, here you can see in the background, the financials is added. Okay, within the financials, you can have everything. So XYZ implementation project, within that we have everything. So you want to add only payables, for example, for discussion purpose. So you want to add payables only. Payables means what? Define invoicing and payment configuration. Let's add into this project. Already financials we added. Just to understand how specific option can be added after creating project, we'll see. Click on add. What we are going to add? We are going to add not offering, option. Option means here you can select task list. What is the name? Here you can see. Define invoicing and payment configuration. Search for the same option. Define invoicing, search. So here is the task list. Nothing but option. Define invoicing and payment configuration. You select it. Click on apply. Now we are adding only one application. See here. Define invoicing and payments configuration we added. The same way here, let me expand this. For reference purpose, I am taking the different tab. That's all. You want to add define payables only. Yes, that is also possible. Here, task list only you can keep for search criteria. So you can search for define payables. Okay, define payables. You select define payables and say apply. You can say define payables is added, or else what you want to do is the define payables, you want to add only one task only. For example, I want to add the task called as manage payment terms. Yes, possible. Here you have to select. If you want to add the task, select task only. Okay, what is the task name? Manage payment terms. Find the same. You don't need to type the full name. Manage payment terms. Here you can select manage payment terms task. You just select this task. This task you can include into your project. Okay, you can include into your project. So here you can see offering we added separately, option also we added separately, and task list also we added. Now we are going to add the specific task. Select and say apply. You can see here. Now you can say done. So this is how after creating implementation project also you can add offering or one or multiple options, or else within those options specific task list only you can add, or specific task also you can add. So anytime you can remove this. Okay, you want to remove the financials offering or this option or this task list or this task from this project. Simply you can select whatever you want to remove. Click on remove. So this is how you can remove. Anytime you can add and anytime you can remove. For example, so by using Google implementation project, you completed all the financial setups. You completed all the financial setups. After completing all the financial setups, if you delete financials from this project, you don't need to worry about it. You created Google implementation project. Within Google implementation project, you added an offering called as financials. So you did all the setups. You completed finance setups and you deleted financials offering from the project. We don't need to worry about it. all the setups will remain in instance as it is. You can create one more project and you can access those setups. That's how it works. If you delete the project, don't think your setups will be deleted. Just the navigation paths are deleting. Okay, that is a purpose we are using implementation project. So this is a point we have to understand. So we're done for today. If you have any questions, you can stay back. We will discuss. No further discussions. We'll connect tomorrow, same time, 8 o'clock. Thank you all. See you tomorrow. Any questions, please? So any questions from anyone, please?
Hello, Lakshman.
Yeah.
There is one question.
Yeah.
I'm from JD Edwards background. So do we have in Fusion similar database files which gets updated as backend, and which as a consultant we should know or we should be aware of?
What exactly? Which point you are referring? Database means are you talking FPDA templates or what?
Yeah, templates or any transactions which we will create in future. So
Yes,
whether
yes.
those
That we are going to cover in our classes.
Okay.
How to
Yeah.
load the data by using the templates, we are going to cover in our classes. That is a purely functional job in the Fusion. In case of EBS, technical. Okay.
Okay, like
Yeah.
just for
Functional.
example, in JD Edwards we have. Yeah.
Yeah, tell me. No, please go ahead with your question.
Okay, so just like JD Edwards, we will have like even if any data we created, it gets updated in some of the backend files. So just like a project we created, does it update any of the backend files or database files?
No, no. Here, see, in Fusion, too much of files concept they are not using. Wherever the files concept is applicable, I'll cover that. Okay. Mostly you can see that files concept to load the suppliers, to load the customers, to load the payables invoices, to load the receivables transactions, to load the assets, to load the journals, and many other areas also. The files concept is applicable. I'll cover that. I included in the curriculum the same.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks. Any other questions?
Yeah, Lakshman, this is Srinivas. I don't have questions, but a quick, small suggestion. Once you are
Please.
done with the small topic, actually, you're opening the floor for question and answer. So then we can ask any question if we want. But in
Correct.
between, people are asking questions, so unnecessarily it is getting distracted. Would you please?
No, see, the point is, yeah, totally I respect your point.
Yeah.
So these are the very initial classes, right? So people will have many questions. Going forward, that the question size will be definitely reduced.
Okay. Okay, fine.
So initial class, see, everybody, I'll allow all the questions and number of questions also, no issues. Okay, generally, what happens is the initial classes, everything is new. See, after 2-3 classes, if you go to implementation project creation, and if you see here anything, it's very much known. Many things easily you can understand based on whatever already we covered.
Okay.
It will become very much familiar. The number of questions will be drastically reduced.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. Fine. Any other questions, please?
Lakshman,
yeah.
Myself Syed. So today is my first session. So I have missed the previous session. So if I have any doubts in that previous session, so how I need to approach you?
Definitely. Yes. In the next session, we can discuss, or else we can have a separate call and we can discuss also. Team will arrange the call.
Okay.
We can do that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. Any questions, please? Okay. Seems to no questions. So then that's all for today. We'll connect tomorrow, same time. Thank you all.